You are watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and tonight I'm back with my new segment with the best journalist I know, Erik. He's no stranger to the show. A lot of you have reached out and asked me to continue doing this. And so he has made the time for us. And tonight we have another great news update for you. But before I bring Erik, by the way, Erik, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Jennylyn. Nobody puts Jennylyn in the corner.
No one does. She won't put up with it. She will raise hell. Anyway, I happened to see a TikTok video today, and it was so pertinent to what is happening in the world. I decided to get some excerpts from it to start off tonight's show. Depending on how long we go, I may actually drop the video at the end of this segment. And I'm going to read to you what I recorded from it. And I'm actually going to quote, this is not my article. I'm going to give the credit where it belongs. And it's to a gentleman by the name of Stephen Eugene Cohn. And he is on TikTok. So you are welcome to go check him out. But this is what he said. And I couldn't put it better myself. The great divide is where one side uses emotions to excuse evil, while the other side uses logic to erase suffering. But both are locked in the same cage, and neither one knows it. The great divide is not race, it's not gender, not nations, but the programmed mind versus the free mind. You're either living in reaction or you are living in reflection. If you're always angry, always triggered, pointing fingers, you are not awake. You are just activated. Ask yourself, when was the last time you investigated your beliefs? Not defended them, investigated them. When did you even question where you got your beliefs? What if the people you trust are the ones keeping you small? You may not be a free thinker, but a loyal defender of someone else's script. That is not intelligence. It's indoctrination. We've learned to look for enemies, not to understand. We learn to defend ourselves from truth if it comes from the wrong mouth. And now we are tearing each other apart while the architects of division laugh from their ivory towers. Do you want to know what scares people in power the most? Not protests, not elections, not hashtags, but connections. You sitting down with the person you hate and realizing they bleed just like you, they cry just like you, and hope just like you. That's what they fear, and that's where the power lies. Next time you attack someone for what they believe, ask yourself, is this anger or is this programming? Defending its cage, to be honest, that's the answer that will change the world. When you could sit down and decide why you're angry at people, when they have a belief that is different to yours, when we can all sit down together and understand each other's views and accept that we are entitled to them, therein lies the power. And that is what those who are running the show are trying to avoid, which is why you have the left and the right getting the energy, riling people up on both sides, because united we stand, divided we fall. And I thought that that was a great way to start tonight's show. I'm sorry it was long, but I'm hoping that you get what he's trying to say. So, Erik, that was the introduction for tonight. You want to add anything to it before we start with tonight's agenda?
Well, I'm really excited to program everyone with my propaganda to replace that propaganda that you just expelled. So, I'm highly anticipating having a successful mind washing of people today.
What do you think of what he said, though? What are your
I mean,
views? Though?
so I mean, it's and on a serious note, he's correct. It's we're played. Our emotions are played on, and some you have basically one side is they're completely emotion driven, and the other side is data driven. And you're never going to take an emotional person and feed them data, just like you're never going to take data driven people and cram emotions at them. Neither side computes, so it's an easy way to keep people divided, and it's unfortunate. And I think that we need to simplify things. Things just need to heavily simplified. Is this right or is this wrong? And I know there's going to be theoretical differences. However, I think if we look at what our global moral compass is, like, you probably shouldn't kill people. You probably shouldn't do these things. You probably shouldn't do anytime someone feels oppressed, that's probably not a good thing. So I think it's you know a simple solution. However, we're dependent upon social media, we're dependent upon news outlets, we're dependent upon all kinds of things that um, are constantly having seeds planted. Um, when I was in college, we learned about a method that they called the seven truths. So in this method, if you hear the same thing 7 times, your brain tends to calculate it as true. So I think that's what the methods that they use with our media. They just keep with the same story and the same narrative over and over and over again until it's implanted in our transmitters, and we have an emotional response to that.
I just remember once when I was in California and there was an election, was pre-election while all the campaigns are going on, and people were like brutally attacking each other on Facebook. And I remember it bothering me so much. I went on there and I wrote, "How many of you have had coffee with these people? When have you had dinner with them? Do they know who you are? You're just a
Right,
number to them, a statistic. And here you are tearing each other apart for people who don't even know you exist." And
right.
I thought that some people, I think, really thought about what I said, but it's designed to do exactly that. And unless we wake up to it, this is a perpetual separation. Um, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Tactic that will
Right.
continue to be used to manipulate, control, and divide. So enough said about that. I thought it was thought provoking and I wanted to put it out there. Sorry I jumbled it up. I kind of prepared it in 10 minutes. I was listening to his video and making notes with bad Wi-Fi, so that was the best I could do.
Well, thought provoking is good. Everyone, use your brains, please.
Anyway, tonight we are bringing you the news updates, and as always, the news is happening, and it is the news. And they have many versions of it. But Erik will bring you the well researched, factual version of the news as it happened, and not as it has been fluffed up and changed to control. And so tonight we're going to start off, Erik, with your take on the meeting between Putin and Trump.
Well, it's ironic that you bring that up. I've talked about it all over the world in the last couple of days. So,
You have? You have?
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I was just on the Republic last night talking about it at like midnight. But The meeting between Trump and Putin, I believe, went so well, and I believe we talked about this on here just very briefly. But it was a step in the right direction. We got Vladimir Putin to come on U.S. soil to discuss peace talks and deals. Now, we did not get a finalized deal out of that. However, that's Putin taking an extra step that he was not taking before. So this is it's significant in that aspect, and I know there's a lot of people on the other side of the fence that are going, "Oh, he's bowing to the King Putin," but that's not what's like. Who cares? Who cares who bows to who? Even if that's the case, this is a deal that's going to end thousands and thousands of people dying a week. And for someone to sit here and try to make excuses like well he's doing this with Russia, who cares? If Russia goes back to Russia at the end of the day and Ukraine uh, starts to rebuild their society at the end of the day, I think it's a success. um, Anytime we have a massive amount of people dying, that's never a good thing for humanity. That puts bad juju on everybody in the world, and so we want to end these conflicts and end these situations. Now, how that gets done, that's what we're going to be talking about. So we know, and even after President Trump met with President Zelensky and members of the European Union, they pretty much acknowledged it's going to come down to a division of land. They know this. I've been talking about this for 2 years, that this is going to come down to the eastern part of Ukraine, and that's what's going to come down to. If Ukraine comes off of eastern part of Ukraine, which most of those people in that region want to be Russian or independent anyway, then Putin's going to say, okay, I'm done here. Now, what is Zelensky going to get in return? That's the big question. I think he's going to get more access to the global market. I think he's going to get a more secured country where there will be maybe an official U.S. base put on Ukrainian soil. That potentially could happen, or there could just be a regular uh, appearance and influence of American troops on their soil. So, however they decide to do it, Zelensky's going to get something out of this in Ukraine, and he should. I don't want to take anything away from the Ukrainians. They have fought valiantly with very little and a lot of restrictions. So I feel a lot of sympathy towards the Ukrainian people. Um, However, in the research that I've done, I believe that Putin had a sense of validation in how he started things. Now, did he step over the line a few times? I do think so. I think there's some things that we need to discuss with him. Um, However, ending this war is going to be the most important thing on this planet right now, and then we can focus on, the situation over in Israel and however it is that we're going to deal with that. But right now, ending this war between two brothers, that's how I look at it. This is two brothers. This is, at the end of the day, everybody involved is Russian blood. And these are two brothers, and we need to let these brothers finish their argument and go home. So that's where I'm at.
Well, of course, one of the reasons I did that, I used that video as the intro for this segment, kind of piggybacks onto this comment right here that I'm going to read. This guy is a CNN affiliate reporter, and this is what and I'm not going to name him, but this is what he says. Trump's Alaska summit with Putin was an embarrassment and a failure and a big mistake, a terrible mistake. So, as always, things happen in the world, and people seem to get some very extreme opinions of the outcomes. Because listening to what you just said, it sounds to me like we are hopefully on a different trajectory that will hopefully result in more peace. And another
Right.
person, another journalist, sees this as a terrible mistake and a big embarrassment. Erik, what do you think when a story happens? What is it that causes such different extreme takes on one situation? It's the same situation.
So here, this is a very deep conversation. The answer is not simple, and it goes into several different layers of globalism. Basically, this war didn't really have much to do between Russia and Ukraine. This war had to do more between Russia and Europe. So
Yeah.
when you really look at that, and legacy media is owned by Europe, flat out. You can sit here and you can track the money all day long. And go, well, it's not really. The puppeteers of legacy media are Europe, and um, and I can say that in full confidence. So when you have these guys get on TV, there's an agenda. It's just like I just audited General Jack Keane the other day, who's on Fox News all the time, and he annoys me because every time he gets on TV, he has one agenda, and it's to push Ukrainian propaganda. They give them more money, give them more weapons, give them this, give them that, and I started to think, I'm like, why is this guy so obsessed with Ukraine? Why is he trying to keep? If you keep arming Ukraine, they're going to keep fighting. There's no, he's not getting on TV going, I hope these two leaders work together and come up with a peace deal so people stop dying. No, you have Jack Keane getting on TV saying, give everybody guns. That's not going to work. That's not going to solve the problem. It's going to escalate the problem. So I looked into him and come to find out he's bought and paid for, was on the board of several uh, uh, the defense contractors. He is bought and paid for by the defense contractors. So everything he does, he make that goes to Ukraine. He gets money from. So this is part of the problem that we have. We have special interest groups that go and buy their influencers, and then they cram the agenda down our throats. And then we have people out there that listen to this stuff all the time with tunnel vision, and they go, wow, we really need to help Ukraine because General Jack Keane, who's so respected, said so. And it's the same thing on the right with Lindsey Graham, too. He does the same thing. I don't trust Lindsey Graham as far as I can throw him. He's got that crooked smile. He's got him and Hunter Biden have the exact same smile. If you go look at them side by side, you got one side of his mouth is up and the other side's down. It's like Harvey Two Face on Batman. And it's it's true. They got that crooked smile.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and so like people like that I can't trust. There's two people I know, three people I know that have a crooked smile, and all three of them are criminals. So um, you know, Lindsey Graham does the same thing. He's vested in private military companies like Boeing, um, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, all the major defense contractors. So it makes sense every time Lindsey Graham gets on TV, he's like, "We need President Trump's wrong. We need to give Ukraine as much money and gold and weapons as they need." Okay, Lindsay, we get it. You're getting a kickback. There's money coming to you for saying all of this. So this is part of the problem that we have with legacy media outlets. This is why a lot of Americans stop trusting regular media outlets because we know because we have access to every research thing you could possibly think of at our fingertips to where we can cross check and fact check these people and say why do they think like that, because that's when I hear something on the news, that's automatically what I think in my head. Why are they
Mhm.
telling me this? Instead of saying yes, this is what they're telling me, I say why are they telling me this? And then I want to find out what the motive is, what direction are they trying to push me in, because if I don't like, I have a listening disability, so when people tell me to do stuff I just automatically don't do it. I don't I don't know why, but that's what happens. So if somebody's pushing me in a direction, I'm going the opposite direction. I don't care if it's a swamp full of hungry alligators. I'm going that way. So that's the problem that we run into, and it's the same with Russia and Ukraine. They've spent all this time painting Putin as the boogeyman or the Baba Yaga, and and that's what is expected. So anytime Trump talks to Putin, this is automatically what they're going to go to, even though Trump has made more progress in the last 2 weeks between these two countries than what we've seen in the last 5 years, 4 years. So I really think that people in the world need to just take a step back and go, well, this is progress towards peace. We need that. We're going to put these two guys in a room and we're going to talk it out for the first time since this war started. Why is that a problem? The end.
Uh, well, Erik, you're intrinsically a researcher. So when something crosses your path and it doesn't resonate with your soul, you go digging and you find the truth and you bring it to those who want to hear. What makes me really, really sad is so many people who are attacking other people. I see it every day. I see it on Facebook. I see it on TikTok. People are attacking those people who are bringing the truth. And I
Right.
always say, if someone is attacking you, or TikTok or any one of these platforms is really regulating, targeting, and blocking a journalist or someone putting videos out there, that's who you want to follow, because they
Right.
have a tendency to stop the truth tellers. And that's because those are the people telling us the news, which they don't want you to know because you're interrupting the narrative, which is designed to
Right.
control you. And so, if you could recognize that, then you can go and really search for the truth yourself. It's in a lot of places. Almost every platform has people telling the truth. And if you see someone being called a conspiracy theorist, that's the person you want to follow, because that's the person telling the truth. Now, Erik, we know that Trump also met with Zelensky. We also know that Zelensky had his entourage from the EU follow him to the White House, which I found interesting. What did
Right.
you find out about that? And what was the agenda behind all these EU, which, that, by the way, the EU is labeled as, and I want to repeat exactly what I read, it's corruption at its finest.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And so, I mean, I, like Erik, is also a researcher. And as I discover and learn what's really behind all these organizations, it hurts my stomach because I can't do anything about it, or I too may end up in a tub, overdosed, although I don't drink and smoke and all this crap. They'll find my body somewhere with some horrible story left for my legacy. So I have to be careful. I'm not Erik. I'm not a retired CIA, FBI, or whichever organization. So I have to really monitor what I know. So Erik, I'm going to let you tell. You tell them because nobody can come after you.
Yeah, they do all the time, but they don't ever win. But the so when we look at the European Union and we look at the members who represented Zelensky, or who were there on behalf of Zelensky, for one, you could tell Trump was in full control over that whole meeting. Um, you had Finland, the prime minister of Finland made a statement after the meeting and said, "This is the most progress we've seen yet." So even though the some of the media is going to come out and they're going to say, "Oh, this was a horrible mistake," we're actually seeing positive reviews come out of the United Nations now, and that's kind of a red flag for me because the United Nations doesn't do anything nice for Trump. So they absolutely don't like working with him. Especially Macron, who's got his own scandal going on. Which the French president, for those of you who don't know, he is a social democrat. So he's part of their socialist movement. The Finland is a socialist country. So this is when they come to the table. Their goal is to globalize everything. Ukraine is part of that system. They need to globalize Ukraine because Ukraine has some of the best farmland in Europe, the largest amount of farmland. They need that farmland. They also need the precious minerals in the ground in Ukraine. So Ukraine has a lot of value to Europe. The problem is they don't want to put their foot down and stop the corruption, which is why they won't admit them into any European groups. because the corruption was so bad there. Now, Zelensky did come out and say after the meeting, he said, I will hold a presidential election after the peace deal. So that's good because I was a little worried about that because Zelensky has, and and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. When you're going through a war, the last thing you want to do is change leadership. I get that. We can get away with it in the United States because we have our transition process is so good that we can transition right into those things. But in other countries like Ukraine, it's in the middle of a really nasty war. So their transition process is going to be a little different. And but it's nice to hear him say these things. It's nice to hear Zelensky come out and verbally say, I'm looking forward to meeting President Putin and working out a deal. So I think the deal's already been made with Putin. The deal's already been made with Zelensky. They just got to bring them together and shake hands on it, and it's going to be a day. I think with the rapid fire movement of how this is all working, I think Trump has had enough, is what happened. And he said, no, we're going to sit this down. We're going to have this deal done in a month. Boom, let's get it done. Everybody, get on my time. And that's what's happened because we're seeing rapid fire movement out of this now. Where in the 4 years under Biden, we didn't see any movement. We saw no leadership in Ukraine. It was just cut them a check, and that didn't work. Cutting Ukraine a check didn't work. You have to get in there and mediate these situations, which is what Trump did. Had Biden got in the middle of that and tried to mediate between Putin and Zelensky, this war probably would have been over with a couple years ago. But the fact that we didn't have the leadership that would get in there and referee this back then is what part of this is
I
why this is
think it
still
was
continuing.
deliberate. I think allowing it to go on was deliberate. Go down the rabbit hole and you will find out why it's gone on so far and why those who are opposing its
Right.
termination, what is it they are benefiting from? And I hate to say, but apparently, based on what I've learned, it's more than money. It's actually disturbingly heinous what is actually at the bottom of all of this. We're living in a world where if you remain oblivious, it's to your own detriment. Seriously.
Right.
If you don't start digging and learning for yourself, if you are older like I am, maybe it doesn't matter. But if you have anyone in the upcoming generation that matters to you, it's important that you remain informed.
Right.
Be- so
Hey, Jenny Lynn, I'm gonna have to fact check you. You're not old. You're only 29. So I don't know why you keep saying you're old.
I feel old, Erik. I actually, old is just age is a mind over matter. I am never
Right.
going to be old. I always say this. I'm going to get all the mileage I can out of this vessel.
Amen.
So, Erik, there are people who are saying that Trump, our president, or the president has declared that he believes both meetings are a step toward peace. What does that look like for you based on your knowledge of what's happening and what has happened? And what do you think the trajectory is for the world based on what you know that transpired between Zelensky and Putin? And do you really believe? I know this is a really long question. Do you really believe they could bridge that divide and find peace?
So there's a contributing factor to consider that a lot of people, even the experts, are not talking about. I get it because I see around all the corners. So I think when it comes to the peace deal, I think it gets done. I think Russia's going to end up with that eastern strip of Ukraine, and they're going to be done. Ukraine's going to end up with a package deal of things and security and access. Now, Russia's also eventually they're going to work Russia back in. So the first thing they need to do right now, India's paying for this whole debacle right now. They doubled India's tariffs from 25% to 50%. They did that to put pressure on India to put pressure on Russia, which is why we're Trump played chess with the world and he won. It was a brilliant move. At first, I didn't understand it. The Indian government didn't understand it, but now they get it. So Putin now wants to talk about it and he wants to end things because he's getting pressure from one of his biggest customers. You don't want to make your customers mad. The customer's always right. So, and that was a big Trump was gonna destroy Russia economically that way. Now, now that when the peace deal gets done, India will have that extra 25% taken off. And what does Russia gain? So Russia is just going to, as of right now, it looks like they're just going to gain some land. However, I think what happens is we start to see the gradual reunification of Russia into the global market without restriction. Now, I think that's going to be a good thing. It's going to make the oil markets more competitive. It's going to make the agriculture more competitive. We're going to see a lot of different markets take off because we're adding more product to it, which when you add more product to a market, it lowers prices. So we're going to see a lower price on certain things. Plus, it's going to make Russia play by the rules because they're going to gain monetarily from the access that Trump is going to allow them to have. So if Putin's making more money than he ever has for Russia, why screw it up over some petty arguments? They're going to protect that economy because growing the Russian economy is big for the Russian people. And if Putin can accomplish that and raise the medium income in Russia, it makes him look like a hero. And that's big for him. Putin wants to look like a hero that saved Russia. So this is a game that Trump is playing that he's got it mapped out. He just has to get everything knocked out in a row, and it's going to happen. Putin's going to be controllable economically. We already know we can control him politically and militarily. So that's kind of where that's at. That's where I see this going, and I'm probably going to be right.
Well, let's hope you are right. But Erik, here's one thing that has been jumping up in my mind while you were speaking. It's one thing for Putin and Trump to want to make peace, but don't forget, there are two people and there's a whole bunch in
Right,
political world who does not want this to happen because like I said, there's some very heinous reasons why they're not just going to throw the towel in and let this happen. And that's what concerns me. What do you think? Because if it were just these three people, Zelensky, Trump, and Putin, I would be a lot more optimistic than I am at the moment. But knowing the political world as I do, and as a younger woman who was not on the journalistic path, I always believed all of these issues that transpired amongst world leaders had to do with their egos. And how
right,
I've learned the ego is not even in the back seats in the trunk somewhere. The issues are
right.
way bigger than egos. So, how do you see all the work they are doing? How are you see it playing out based on what we know about the number of people in governments and part of the EU that does not want this peace deal to happen?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question. I have an answer for you. So, what we look at is influence. What is Russia? What is in Russia that's influenced? Nothing. Russia has banned any influence by George Soros. Russia has banned all Rothschild's banking systems in their country. There is no Klaus Schwab in Russia. There is no World Economic Forum in Russia. Putin keeps those European principles and policies out of his country.
Mm.
So he will continue to do it. Europe will always be Putin's enemy. Now, what Donald Trump is going to do is he's going to create American influence in Russia, and Putin will be open to that. Now, a lot of people are going to go, oh, this is Donald Trump selling us out to Russia. No, Donald Trump is installing an economic system that Russia can't say no to, and they can't cross it because it's their own demise.
What do
It's
you
a
mean that they're going to bring those European countries that he's blocking when you say the American influence? These are American companies. So are you saying he will now be open to having them in Russia?
No, Russia's never going to allow anything European in their country.
Good.
That all of that will be gone. It'll never happen. He's very he stands on his ground on that. He does
But the
not want anything else.
majority of the American companies are BlackRock. All those names you mentioned, those are the ones practically running our country. So if we are going to expand our influence in Russia, what exactly will we be expanding there? I'm just
So
curious.
where what we have is, so when you look at the top, let's say the top three asset management companies in the world. Number one is BlackRock, number two is
Mm-hmm.
Vanguard, and number three is Fidelity Investments.
Right.
Um, when they're all American companies. Now, not every asset management company is American. Okay. So towards the bottom, number eight is Amundi. They're French. And then there's a German one in there in the top 10. So there are two foreign asset management companies. Now you also have to add in like the Swiss. You have the United Bank of Switzerland. You have
The
their asset
Swiss
management
effect.
portfolio. Right. The
You
Swiss
have the
effect.
Swiss effect.
You have the Swiss effect. So when when we look at that, who's to say Russia can't have their own asset management company? If we're opening up the global market to Russia, you're going to start to see Russian money flow into the global economy. So they're going to be able to develop their own asset management companies. They're going to be able to create their own umbrella. Now, me personally, I don't like umbrellas. I don't like asset management companies because what you see is when you go look at like BlackRock, Vanguard, and the old number three was State Street. So when you look at all three of those and you say, wow, those are multi-trillion-dollar asset management companies. Well, yeah, they are. But you know how they survive? They compete as a triopoly. That's what I call it. I call it a triopoly because it's not a monopoly. BlackRock doesn't run everything. They run a lot, but BlackRock invests into Vanguard. Vanguard invests into State Street. State Street invests into BlackRock. So they keep each other funded into one giant conglomerate asset management company. So that's why I call it a triopoly. I believe that asset management companies, when they invest in each other like that, that's a violation of the antitrust laws. I think they need to break them up, but they're never going to do that because companies like those they're too big to fail. And if you take down BlackRock and parcel it out, you're gonna our economy will take a huge hit. Um, but now you look at BlackRock specifically, and you compare it and say, well, how would BlackRock, and you brought this up, how would BlackRock affect Europe? Like what's BlackRock's connection to Europe? Well, just this past week, the World Economic Forum announced that um, Lawrence Fink is now the co-chair of the World Economic Forum. For
Mhm.
those of you who don't know who that is, he is the CEO of BlackRock. So now anything Europe wants to do is the brainchild of Lawrence Fink, who's going to filter it through BlackRock, who holds the umbrella over the entire United States. So what you're going to see are the DEI programs come back. You're going to see Klaus Schwab's fourth industrial revolution get revived under Larry Fink or whoever Larry Fink appoints after he's done doing what he's doing, and because he's just a temporary seat holder now, but he could take full control if he wanted to. He has that power. So you have a European influence in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which was developed by every socialist and communist country in the world. They created this to get us living off of the government. So they want free this, free that, to where you have to go to the globalized government to get help. We have to depend on the government. So anything that happens in the world, we don't have the freedom anymore to solve our own problems or to make ourselves rich or to live the American dream, we have to go to the government for our needs. And that's not going to fly for a lot of people in the world. So that's a huge issue that I'm paying very close attention to, which my book, The Swiss Effect, is about that this whole scenario. And Klaus Schwab, Trump screwed up the plan. He got elected the first time. They thought, well, Trump won't get elected again. And so then the plan was Biden would get it back on track. So if you hear him talk about the year 2030, when Biden and Kamala and all of them would talk about 2030, that's them talking about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's the date that Klaus Schwab set to have the whole program implemented globally. So what's also involved in there is the control over mineral rights all over the world, control over healthcare all over the world. They get to dictate through the World Health Organization what shots we need, what all of that. It's a scary thing. And considering how many scandals and human rights violations that the World Health Organization's been involved in the last 30 years, I don't want them dictating anything that I'm doing. So it's a slippery slope to just open your arms and say, give us this European policy, because that European policy that they've been utilizing all throughout Europe and parts of Africa has been a huge failure so far. And on top of it, they were funneling USAID money over there. That's where that stolen money went. It went to fund these programs. So there's a big picture that Trump broke up, and it screwed the whole plan up. When he got rid of USAID and put the funding in Marco Rubio's court, that changed the game. And now you're seeing the World Economic Forum is regrouping. Klaus Schwab got accused of some sexual harassment and some bullying types of allegations, so he stepped aside. Then they end up dismissing everything naturally, and he was getting up there anyway. But he knew that he wouldn't live long enough to see his fourth industrial revolution play out, and so he's going to let Larry Fink do it. And in my opinion, Larry Fink is one of the top three most evil people on the planet. But that's my opinion.
I share your opinion based on the research I've done. So, Erik, there are two items that I have two news items that I have on our agenda tonight that I definitely want to table before we run out of time. And one probably needs a whole hour, and that's the AI, how do I say this? The AI and how
Infrastructure.
the AI infrastructure and the AI, it's been said it's not regulated. And based on what people are reporting is already happening, I find it concerning. But before we go to that, Trump wanted to let me read what I wrote. Trump vows to target mail-in ballots, and I wanted to know why, because I always mail my ballot in when I vote.
So here's the problem with mail-in ballots: is anybody can mail in your ballot. It is an issue um, where it's easy to ballot harvest this way. I am 100%. I believe that they should go ahead and make election day a holiday, nobody work, shut the country down, and everybody go vote. And that way, they have to show up, they have to provide their ID, and then they can vote. I don't like this. Let's just throw ballots all over the country and see what comes back. That has so many margins of error that it's ridiculous. Your ballot could get lost in the mail. Your ballot could get eaten by the dog. Your ballot can. There's so many things. When you mail something in, think of how many times you've mailed something and it never made it, or it made it after the date you needed it to be there. Or there's so many things that can go wrong with mail-in ballots. But my main one is the ballot harvesting, because people can run around and go find out who's not voting but is registered, and go get ballots and in their name, fill them out for them, and then go dump 50 of them in a drop box somewhere. That's the biggest problem with mail-in ballots. I get it. It's a convenience to just go ahead and do it. I prefer, since we're in technology age now, I prefer a thumbprint, a retinal scan, and then you should be able to digitally vote.
Well, hopefully we're going to get there because I'm
I
telling
think we will.
you, going to polling stations is also a problem. I remember last election where buses broke down with people, and, life happens and things happen that prevent people from their opportunity to exercise their democratic right. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, AI will come up with a way to establish a fairer election and an opportunity for all those who want to vote in a timely manner and not have other people pretending to be who they're not and
Correct.
voting. So, Eric, I don't know this AI thing, how much you know about it, but
Lots.
you and I know you were following a story about a young man who committed suicide after he was
Allegedly.
blowing the whistle on AI not being regulated. And then I think he got tired of blowing the whistle and he just killed himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's your story. You can tell it how you want, but you
No,
want to know
no,
what
no,
really
no, no,
happened?
no. I'm just being sarcastic. That's
I'll
the
tell you what really
thing
happened.
that
He
yes.
was
So
executed by Sam Altman's people, period. I've already put it all over X after my investigation and working with Suchir Balaji's family for 4 or 5 months. There were 2 bullets found in that kid's skull, and one of them killed him and the other one didn't. And he was spitting blood out all over the place. And then they realized they didn't kill him, and then they shot him execution style. That kid was murdered, probably by Sam Altman. I would put my 10-year salary on that Sam Altman is the one who is responsible for Suchir Balaji's death.
So, what does this mean for us in the world that some of the stories people are reporting that is happening currently with AI? And I also follow a gentleman who was an engineer at Google who was working on AI, and he quit and he's telling people, although AI is good, it's going to start killing us. I cannot believe I forgot his name. I had written it down and I don't have it here with me. But what do you have to say about this, Eric? What are
So
your thoughts?
when you okay, so for those of you who don't know, Sam Altman is the co-founder of OpenAI. OpenAI has teamed up with Oracle and that one Japanese company to do what's Trump's plan? What's his AI plan called? Starseek or something? No, that's the Chinese thing. But he's got his initiative, his AI infrastructure initiative. Now he wants Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, and the Japanese gentleman to come together to create the infrastructure and to create the AI system. The problem is we've Sam Altman is a crook. Sam Altman is responsible for Suchir Balaji's murder. This is the moral compass guy that we're trying to add into the information sharing all over the world. Do I trust that? No, I don't. Because just in the AI that I deal with on a daily basis, there are flaws all over it. I catch them all the time. They try to hide information that tell a full spectrum of the story. And I call AI out on it all the time. And they're like, yep, you're right. I shouldn't have kept that from you. I'm like, what do you mean? Your job is to tell me all the facts of the questions that I ask. And it maliciously leaves out information that I need that's pertinent to what I'm working on. And so I have to ask specific questions to the system all the time. So I don't trust AI. I don't trust Sam Altman's fingers in it. I don't trust Larry Ellison in it. Honestly, we don't have the energy infrastructure to sustain a massive AI system right now. We would have to shut down probably we'd probably have to shut down Bitcoin in order to power um, the AI system.
Okay, I found it. Go look this video up on YouTube. Ex Google executive warning: the next 15 years will be hell before we get to heaven. His name is Gawdat. Go check out that video. He worked on AI at Google and he quit. And he's been traveling around the world. He's written a book just sort of warning us. He's not saying that AI is all bad, but he's talking
Right.
about the side of it that will be regretful for a lot of us or regrettable for a lot of us because of its lack of regulation. And
Right.
that concerns me. And so and then Erik just told us there's this young engineer who, quote unquote, committed suicide because he was talking about his concerns with no regulation for AI. And so maybe next week we can table this AI topic and talk some more about it. Erik, what do you want to leave with people? Because we're down to 42 seconds. What do you want to leave with people about AI tonight that they should be aware of, that you have checked, that is factual?
And until there's nothing factual about AI as of yet. There's no regulation. So I would urge you all to get a hold of your local representatives, your local Congress people at the state and federal level, and have them question this. There needs to be regulations, there needs to be guidelines, and they are not in place. As a matter of fact, the big beautiful bill had a portion in it where it said nobody can regulate AI for 10 years. That's unacceptable. So this is the beginning of our downfall as a society until we get some kind of guardrails put in place.
Why in the world would we want to have a law saying this? Why would we have a law specifying that we cannot regulate AI? What would be
Because
the agenda behind that?
we are so tech thirsty that our leaders are willing to sacrifice things for it.
Oh my
It's sick.
God. You know, I sometimes I feel like there are two parallel worlds that we are associated with. We live in one, and then there's another one above us. It's a completely different archy. It's a hierarchy, and we are down in the bottom, and we are dictated to. And no one really cares about our well being, that all we have to do is shut up, don't ask questions, and follow the dictation that's coming from above. And I'm sorry, but I'm not subscribing to that lifestyle. I am not. And I am sure those of you who are awake and know what we know, you feel the same way we do. Because we all deserve to live equally here because we're all the same. Erik, what do you want to leave with the viewers tonight before we wrap?
Question things. Use your brain and ask questions, even if you have to ask it to yourself. Question your information. Go fact check something. You may be surprised that the things you're being fed aren't quite 100% honest.
You know
Period.
what I find bewildering? The blind
What?
trust that educated people I
Yeah.
know give to politicians. I'm like, really? I know you. You are a smart person. How could you just accept whatever these people tell you and roll with it when the dots aren't connecting?
Jennylyn, ignorance is bliss, and ignorant intelligence is something that a lot of people would rather use.
I guess that's where the term NPC comes from. But I have to tell you guys, if we all don't wake up, if we all don't start connecting the dots and looking at things, this world will go to hell in a handbasket. And it's on its way there. So we could come here every week and try to bring you the truth. And I know a lot of you probably look at us and think we're talking nonsense because the narrative may not be consistent with what you are seeing on mainstream media. And that is why we do this, because we're trying to bring the truth to those who seek it. And we will be back next week with whatever happens in the world next week. That's what news is. And thank you for watching us. Please feel free to email or leave comments in the bottom of these videos if you have something you want the great researcher Erik to go down the rabbit hole and
So
bring
much pressure.
answers back for you.
So much pressure.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.